け散った空のかけら地平線を染め上げゆくほど高鳴る鳩々信じて Break the sky, break the sky 今
Hey everyone, and welcome to Grinjow's Gallery. My name is Jesse, and this is my channel. This is going to be my first YouTube channel ever being made, and I just wanted to put this video up to introduce myself to you guys so you have somewhat of a general idea in terms of what the channel is going to be about and what content to expect. I feel like, especially with YouTube or any type of content creation, it's really important for you guys to know the person behind the camera. So I just wanted to put this introductory video together to chat a little bit, let you guys know who I am, what I'm all about, and most importantly too, like what to expect out of the channel, out of Grimjow's Gallery. So in regards to the channel itself, I really want it to be an expression of my hobbies and my interests and my fandom. So a little bit about me. So early 90s baby, 1992, what's up? This camera, I'm looking super old and a lot more washed than I thought I would. But hopefully with time we can get the camera quality a little bit better. But most importantly, hopefully it's the content that you guys enjoy and not necessarily my old looking self. Jeez, I didn't think I looked this old. Anyway, so a little bit about me. My name is Jesse. I've been into collecting, and I would say anime and otaku culture in general, God, for longer than what I can remember. So we'll kind of start from like initially what got me into collecting, and as you can see behind me, the lovely problems that it has caused, because I love this stuff, man. It's beautiful. I love it. So a little bit about me. So originally from Queens, New York. So New York City, great place. Love it. Would definitely recommend you guys check it out, visit. Awesome place. But originally from Queens, New York. And what really drove my collecting, it started on an early age. Like some of my earliest memories and my fondest memories was going to conventions with my dad, believe it or not. So way back when, probably 5-6 years old, I remember my dad taking me to G.I. Joe conventions. There might be some older folks watching this video now, but I would say like towards probably like early mid 80s, late 80s even, G.I. Joe was really popular. They had those little scaled figures, but then they also had a lot of material in terms of television, TV ads, commercials, things like that. So G.I. Joe was really big back in the day. And like with my dad's generation, he grew up with that stuff. So when I was probably around 5 or 6 years old, he started taking me to G.I. Joe conventions. And that really like piqued the love and the interest in regards to collecting. So those are some of my fondest memories, was going to him. We would go to convention halls. And just as a collector, like I'm sure some of you guys, if you've been collecting for a long time or just started getting into collecting, like there's this visceral feeling when you're kind of like trudging through totes of random figures and random parts and like just kind of sifting through, looking for the gold, looking for the piece that you've been wanting to put into your collection for the longest time. It's an awesome feeling, and it's just so much fun, and it's so exciting. So I think early on in my young like elementary days, my dad kind of got me interested in collecting, and a lot of it started with G.I. Joe. And then after G.I. Joe, we're gonna kind of go towards like the earlier 2000s, late 90s. That's when Star Wars Episode 1 came out. And as a kid, I always loved Star Wars. I would say Star Wars is probably one of my favorite properties. Always loved Star Wars. But I remember going with my dad, and his uncle was my uncle. He was really big into Star Wars. And I remember going, he lived in Brooklyn at the time. I remember going into his apartment, and I'm sure like you guys that have collected, you're aware of like the Detolf that they have at IKEA, those glass cases with like the multiple shelves staggered throughout. Obviously they didn't have IKEA back then, but I remember he had like these glass cases where it was just filled with like Star Wars merch and memorabilia and figures from back in the 70s. So then that kind of got the wheels going, and that piqued the interest even more in my younger, more impressionable days. So it really started there. And then I feel like when we talk about like late 90s, early to mid 2000s, I feel like what really kicked off my love of anime, otaku culture, all of that stuff, I would say what really kicked it off would be Toonami. So as a lot of you guys remember, like during that period of time on Cartoon Network, they had Toonami, and a lot of people of my generation, we were exposed to Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho, Inuyasha, Gundam Wing. Gundam Wing was a big property, a big IP that came out during that time. And we were exposed to all these shows. And that's really what like was the nail in the coffin in terms of the love of anime and getting just all this exposure to all this stuff that was completely foreign to me at the time. Because I think during that time, there wasn't a lot of like, I mean, there was anime on television and stuff like that, but that was the big exposure to the West where I feel like the popularity in general really, really took off. And that's definitely what sparked it for me. One thing you'll notice, I can sometimes go off on a little bit of tangents here or there. So my apologies, but I would also say Transformers. Transformers was another spark in terms of my interest with collecting, because during that time in the 80s you had like the old school Transformers, like I think it's like G1 Generation 1 Transformers with Optimus Prime, Megatron, Starscream. My favorite was Hot Rod. I remember my dad's younger brothers, they would sit me down, and one of the first movies I remember watching as a kid was the original Transformers, where, spoiler alert, Optimus Prime dies, and it was like such a huge big deal. It was like, oh my god. But I remember watching that movie, and that was another spark, that was another tipping point. But didn't want to leave Transformers out of there. Love Transformers as well. More so the OG stuff. I mean, Michael Bay's movies are cool. They're cool. They're for what they are, they're really cool. But I love the old school Transformers. So rolling it back a little bit, the love of anime and everything really kicked off with Toonami. If you guys were to ask me like what is my favorite anime, that's tough to answer. I feel like in terms of like early exposure, it would have to be Dragon Ball. I love Dragon Ball. That's probably my favorite, but that it can vary. So Dragon Ball would definitely be my favorite, but I do love Naruto. Naruto is a big series that I really enjoy. Bleach. I feel like Bleach, man, it gets overlooked. It really does. Bleach really gets overlooked. We have the big three. I don't know if I would consider Dragon Ball to be a part of the big three, because Dragon Ball was like, it was kind of before it. But we can lump it in there. But like big three. So when I talk about big three, I talk about like One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach. That's what I would kind of consider the big three of like the early to mid 2000s. And Bleach, for whatever reason, man, it gets overlooked, but it's really awesome. It's fantastic. So if you guys, if you like One Piece, you're used to all the filler, even Naruto. Bleach has a lot of filler. It could even be some of the more egregious filler in terms of it not being so great, but find you a guide. Let's skip through that filler. And Bleach is a great series, and that's kind of where Grimmjow Galleries, that's my favorite character from Bleach. Grimmjow Jaggerjax, the GOAT. Love Grimmjow, Espada number 6. One of my faves. No, is my fave. But definitely Bleach gets overlooked, and it's a little bit sad. All right, but let's go back into kind of what are some of the expectations and things about the channel now that you guys have gotten to know a little bit about me. So with the channel, a lot of it is going to be figure reviews. I would say a good portion of it. So when I talk about figure reviews, I'm talking specifically about like the SH Figure Arts line made by Bandai. Talking about the Figma line, so made by Good Smile Company. So we have Figma, SH Figure Arts, Nendoroid, another line that's also made by Good Smile Company. I don't know what it is, but like even with those little chibi figures, I think they're cute. I like them too. I don't know what it is. I like them, so I do collect Nendoroids also. But we're gonna go into like more obscure things. So more recently within my collecting, I've been really big on third party. So when I talk about third party, I'm talking about those producers out of China. I think that now we can kind of start to remove the stereotype of the figures coming over from China aren't as good as maybe some of the more established brands out of Japan, like Bandai. Obviously, there's still a little bit of quality control things and you definitely need to do your research. And that's kind of one of those things that I'm going to talk about on this channel too, is what to look for and what specifically to pinpoint if you want to kind of get into the Chinese market. And if you want to start buying some of these figures out of China, I'm going to kind of go into what to look for with that. But definitely I want to talk about these third-party companies. So we have, what comes to mind when I think of third-party, Demonical Fit. Demonical Fit makes some great figures. From what my experience is, they're only focused in on the Dragon Ball line, but Demonical Fit is awesome. You have Tonson Art Toys. They make some, I mean, in terms of sculpt, articulation, and just figures that we're not necessarily getting out of Bandai. Tonson Art Toys makes some great products. And specifically, we can talk about the Kid Buu figure that they made, which I have over there on one of my shelves. Kid Buu is something that we've been, as consumers, demanding out of Bandai for a long time that they've never broke into the SH Figure Arts line with. Tonson Art Toys made it. I think it's a really good stand-in figure, but we'll definitely get that one reviewed up in the near future for you guys to talk about. But third party, they have some really good stuff. Recustom is another third party provider. They usually focus in on head sculpts. We'll talk about that a lot on the channel too. Like sometimes we have figures where maybe the body of the figure or the mold of the figure, it's a little bit dated. It's not that great. If you guys were to explore maybe a third party head sculpt, it can really change the entire look and the entire feel of the figure. And I'll definitely give you guys some reviews and give you some solid examples in terms of what I'm talking about with that. So definitely a lot to talk about. For me, I would say like more so as a person, I'm a lot more introverted. And the hope with this channel is to connect to a lot of people out there where sometimes you might feel a little bit isolated. I know that, you know, I feel like transparency is a big thing. And I would say that I'm kind of one of those people. I'm a lot more introverted. Where I live, shout out, live in Texas, pretty cool state. Loving my time here so far. Recently moved here. But there's not a lot of people that I can connect with in terms of my hobbies, in terms of my passions and the things that I like. So I feel like that's a really big focal point and that's a really big driver in terms of creating this channel and hopefully down the line creating a community, is I really just want to be able to connect with like-minded people and share my passion and kind of get your guys' input on these things and have some really fun and really cool conversations in terms of what figures you're looking forward to releasing, what model kits you're looking forward to releasing. I think that through time, you guys will also see, like, I collect a lot of model kits. I'm a model kit collector. Most of it's Gundam related, but shout out to Zoids. I don't know if you, that's another one thing. So like a little bit of a side tangent. Man, like Zoids gets no love in the West, and I don't know what it is. If you guys remember back in Toonami, mid 2000s, early 2000s, when Gundam was releasing and popping off here in the West, Zoids also came out. Zoids is an IP that was made by Kotobukiya, which is another model kit company that kind of rivals Bandai. But the show was great. I feel like the concept was way ahead of its time. So shout out to Zoids. We'll definitely have some Zoid model kits up for review that I can definitely showcase and show you guys. And I think also too, what's going to kind of differentiate my channel a little bit is I'm going to give you guys a little bit of lore in terms of the figures that I'm reviewing, or in terms of like the characters, the models. If we're talking about Gundam models, Zoids, frame arm girls, things like that, I'll kind of go into like what these machines can do, like based off of the anime, based off the manga, the source material, like how effective they might have been in combat, like what they were manufactured to do. Like I'll kind of really dig deep into the lore and kind of share that with you guys. So definitely it's going to be figure reviews and kind of taking a look at those things, but also too, I want to dig into those lores of these machines and of these characters and really spark conversations that way with you guys. So again, it's really more so the channel. I want it to be an outlet for people that they feel like maybe there's not a community around you, maybe there's not a culture in the area that where you live in, and you feel a little bit isolated. I want to make this a place where like you can share, you can have conversations with people that are like-minded, that enjoy the same things that you do. So thank you very much again for taking the time out. I just wanted to put this very brief introduction together, and as I start putting out more videos, there'll be videos like this sprinkled in there too, where you can kind of get to know me a little bit, and hopefully in the future we can really build up this community and make it something exciting where we can have maybe live streams where it's just different people coming up on panels and we can chit chat about figures that you're super excited about, or maybe new purchases that you made. It's always exciting when you get a new figure in the mail. Also, I'll be doing like figure hunting videos. That's one thing I really enjoy doing, is going out with my wife and just picking a city on the map and saying, hey, let's see if they have any cool merch there. Let's see if there's any cool anime stores. Let's see if there's any cool figure shops where I can kind of find some hidden gems to add to my shelf. So again, thank you guys very much for taking the time out to watch the video. My name is Jesse. I'll be putting up as much content as for you guys as I possibly can. Really excited again just to meet some like-minded people and to just share my hobby and share my passion with the rest of you guys. So I'll give you a brief little room tour just to kind of, so you guys can see kind of what I'm working with. We got a lot of material in the background to talk about, to review, to get into the nitty-gritty about. So again, thank you guys. Welcome to Grimjow's Gallery. A little bit of a tongue twister. Welcome to Grimjow's Gallery, and I hope that you guys have an awesome day. See you later.